So, okay, I got it.
Are you doing it? What if he gets what if Nate and Conor gets 3 million pay-per-views?
It's not out of the question.
It's not.
It's a stretch, but not out of the question.
It's a stretch. But if Nate can talk the right amount of shit, and people get excited about it. Honestly, right now, for Conor, what else is there that's even close?
As far as fight?
In MMA?
Well,
what else is even close?
The only argument is you can say Conor's the only draw. He can fight Billy from Afghanistan and still get 2 million pay-per-view buys.
Nate Diaz is training like his life depends on it, and nobody's talking about the real reason why. While everyone's focused on whether he'll actually get a fight, sources close to his camp are saying something completely different. This isn't just another comeback attempt. This is a man who knows something the rest of us don't. And what I'm about to break down for you explains why some of the biggest names in MMA are suddenly very, very nervous about what's coming next.
I think the answer is very obvious. I think we would all rather see Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3. Of course, they are 1-1. The rubber match needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen in the UFC, maybe it happens down the line when they're out the UFC and they're both in the 50s, right? That fight needs to happen at some point in a car park, in a pub, in a restaurant, or better yet, at the White House in the UFC's octagon. That would be a fight that we all want to see. And I think it kind of needs to happen. Anyway, so that's what Nate Diaz should be targeting. That's what he should be talking about. Saying, never mind Michael Chandler, man. I can't do a Nate Diaz impression, right? He should say, never mind Michael Chandler. He's lost his last few fights. We're 1-1. Let's go. Let's do it at the Oval Office, on the White House lawn, wherever the fight's going to take place.
Look, here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. Diaz isn't just hitting pads and running miles. We're talking about 5-hour training sessions that would destroy fighters half his age. Boxing coaches who have worked with world champions are walking out of his gym shaking their heads, not because he looks bad, but because they can't believe what they're seeing from a guy who's supposed to be past his prime. And get this, he's not even officially signed to fight anyone yet. Think about that for a second. When's the last time you saw a fighter grinding this hard without a contract, without an opponent, without even a whisper of a payday? This level of preparation only happens when someone knows exactly what's coming. The question isn't whether Nate's ready to fight. The question is what kind of information he's working with that the rest of us aren't getting.
I mean, they're obviously not out of shape. They're both thin.
Yeah.
They look like they're fit. I see them training. I see, pictures of them with jiu-jitsu gis on and hitting the bag and shit. It's, who knows, man? I mean, it's also like they want that big payday, especially now, and they should get that big payday. But goddamn, if I was the UFC,
you pay them?
Fuck yeah. I think those guys are superstars. I think the UFC doesn't know. I think one of the reasons why Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor was so big is because people love Nate Diaz too. It's not just Conor McGregor.
No doubt.
If Conor McGregor, no disrespect to Eddie Alvarez, but when Conor McGregor fought Eddie Alvarez, the vast majority of the eyes were on Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
When Conor McGregor fights Nate Diaz, you're looking at a lot of people who love Nate Diaz.
Yeah. But how do you think that happened? Like, how do you think Nate got such that star power? You think it's like his attitude?
He legitimately doesn't give a fuck.
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Joe Rogan just dropped a bombshell that changes everything we thought we knew about Diaz's value in today's fight game. According to Rogan, we're not talking about some nostalgic farewell tour here. We're talking about a potential White House card that could generate the biggest payday in combat sports history. And Nate, he doesn't need an opponent to sell tickets. He is the draw. Rogan broke it down perfectly. While other fighters need storylines, need beef, need manufactured drama to get people interested, Diaz brings his own audience wherever he goes. These aren't casual fans who show up for the spectacle. These are ride-or-die supporters who would pay to watch him read a phone book. That kind of loyalty translates to guaranteed pay-per-view buys, guaranteed ticket sales, guaranteed revenue. And when you're talking about a historic venue like the White House, that guarantee becomes worth tens of millions of dollars.
I mean, honestly, if anybody could still fight in their old age, the way the Diaz brothers fight, their style will allow them to fight longer.
Yeah.
Because they're not like the best athletes. So they rely on skill and just
endurance.
Now here's something that's going to blow your mind. Din Thomas just revealed why the Diaz brothers might be the only fighters in the sport who actually get better with age. While everyone else is worried about Nate being past his prime, Thomas is arguing the exact opposite. See, most fighters rely on explosive athleticism, speed, power, reflexes that naturally decline after 30. But the Diaz brothers built their entire game around something completely different. We're talking about technique that's been refined over decades, cardio that would make marathon runners jealous, and a mental toughness that actually improves with experience. Thomas pointed out something crucial that everyone's been missing. When you watch old Nate Diaz fights versus recent ones, his boxing isn't getting sloppy, it's getting more precise. His endurance isn't fading, it's becoming more efficient. His ability to break opponents mentally isn't diminishing, it's reaching scary new levels. This isn't a fighter trying to recapture his youth. This is a fighter who's finally hitting his actual peak.
But, you know, getting a fight done with him isn't easy as it seems. Everybody's like, well, why don't you make a fight? Well, why don't you make a fight?
And get this, Dana White just confirmed what we all suspected about making fights with Nate Diaz. It's not that the UFC doesn't want to book him. It's that Nate has standards that most fighters wouldn't dare demand. While other fighters take whatever matchup gets offered, Diaz consistently pushes for either massive names or completely unexpected challenges that force the entire promotion to restructure their plans. Dana admitted that fans think the UFC can just snap their fingers and make any fight happen, but the reality is way more complicated, especially when you're dealing with someone who has the leverage to walk away from any deal that doesn't meet his vision. And here's the kicker, for a White House card, that leverage actually works in everyone's favor. Because if Nate's going to be difficult about opponents, he's going to push for the biggest possible names, which means the biggest possible event. His demands aren't making things harder, they're making things more valuable.
I've heard the new talk is that Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal could be a potential.
Oh, no,
What's your thoughts? Oh, you haven't heard this?
No.
This is the biggest thing on social media now. Everyone's talking, that Chandler's out and Masvidal's in, and it's Conor and Masvidal.
You know what's funny? So in my algorithm on Instagram, I have nothing MMA.
Right?
Literally nothing MMA pops
Oh,
up.
mine's
in my
politics.
algorithm.
That's my...
Yeah, mine's definitely. There's some politics, but yeah, I don't listen to any of the goofy.
No.
That goes no.
Is that considered goofy?
That's goofy shit. Yeah, the MMA world, I don't listen to any of that. So literally none of that is on my algorithm. So people say, "Oh, did you hear?"
You ever heard? He's like, I believe you. He's not heard about that. It's funny. You type in one of their names too, and that's all people seem to be talking
Literally,
about.
Almost everything you see on the internet about our sport is wrong.
It's not real.
It's all wrong. Yeah.
But wait, it gets worse for anyone hoping this is just speculation. Dana White just destroyed all the fake rumors floating around about other potential White House matchups, and his response tells us everything we need to know about what's real versus what's manufactured hype. When asked about Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal, Dana literally laughed it off as complete nonsense, pointing out that most of what circulates online about MMA is either misleading or completely fabricated. But notice what he didn't dismiss. Notice what he didn't call nonsense. All the talk about Nate Diaz returning, all the speculation about his training camp, all the whispers about a potential White House appearance. Dana's silence on those topics is deafening, because while he'll shut down fake stories immediately, he's not about to kill legitimate negotiations by running his mouth publicly. The fact that he's letting Nate Diaz rumors continue to build momentum tells you exactly how real this situation has become.
I think the answer is very obvious. I think we would all rather see Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3. Of course, they are 1-1. The rubber match needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen in the UFC, maybe it happens down the line when they're out the UFC and they're both in the 50s, right? That fight needs to happen at some point in a car park, in a pub, in a restaurant, or better yet, at the White House in the UFC's octagon. That would be a fight that we all want to see, and I think it kind of needs to happen. Anyway, so that's what Nate Diaz should be targeting. That's what he should be talking about. Saying, never mind Michael Chandler, man. I can't do a Nate Diaz impression, right? He should say, never mind Michael Chandler. He's lost his last few fights. We're 1-1. Let's go. Let's do it at the Oval Office, on the White House lawn, wherever the fight's going to take place, right?
Here's the fight everyone's been waiting for, and Michael Bisping just confirmed it's not just possible, it's inevitable. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 3 isn't a fantasy matchup anymore. It's the logical conclusion to one of the most iconic rivalries in UFC history. Think about the math here. They're 1-1 against each other. Both fighters have wins. Both fighters have something to prove. Both fighters need each other to create the biggest possible spectacle. Bisping didn't just suggest this fight should happen, he practically guaranteed it will happen, even joking about them throwing down on the White House lawn itself. And you know what? That's not even that crazy anymore. Because when you're talking about an event of this magnitude, in a venue this historic, you need matchups that transcend the sport itself. You need fights that become cultural moments. You need the kind of clash that gets covered on every news network, not just ESPN. McGregor versus Diaz 3 on the White House grounds wouldn't just be the biggest fight of the year. It would be the biggest combat sports event in American history.
If Nate Diaz was to come back. But if he was, and if Conor McGregor does actually make it back, I think that's the fight to make all day long. The 1-1, they were some of the biggest fights in UFC history. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House would be absolutely insane. It probably will have Tom Aspinall versus John Jones in the main event. It probably will have Conor McGregor versus someone, Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz, in the co-main event. So that just kind of sets the tone for how big that card would be. What do you think? Do you think Conor McGregor will actually make it back? Of course, he hasn't fought since 2021, right? It's going to be 5 years since he last fought. I, for one, fair play to the guy. Fair play, man. Respect. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to come back. He's got lots of other avenues and ways to make money, but fighting is something that never leaves you, okay? It's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. It's part of your soul. And he wants to come back and he wants to get his hands raised in victory. Of course, he wants to come back and be a...
But here's where the plot thickens even more. Bisping revealed something crucial about why this trilogy makes perfect sense right now, something that goes way beyond just settling the score. He pointed out that McGregor doesn't need another fight financially. The guy's set for life. But that competitive fire, that need to prove he's still elite, that drive never goes away in true champions. And for McGregor, there's no better way to make a statement than by beating Nate Diaz on the biggest possible stage. Meanwhile, Nate's in the perfect position to capitalize on Conor's ego and need for legacy-defining moments. It's not just about who wins the fight. It's about who gets to control the narrative of their entire rivalry. The winner doesn't just get a victory, they get to rewrite history. They get to claim they were always the better fighter, that the other wins were flukes or lucky breaks. That kind of stakes, combined with that kind of venue, creates the perfect storm for an absolutely legendary event.
Not the fight I want to see next, okay? If Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay? And he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens, that's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me, because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return at UFC.
Now get ready for this hot take that's about to set the MMA world on fire. Ben Askren just dropped a truth bomb about Nate Diaz that's going to have the Diaz army ready for war. According to Askren, when you strip away all the hype, all the personality, all the marketing genius, Nate Diaz is actually just an average fighter who's convinced the world he's elite. And before you lose your mind, listen to his argument. Askren pointed directly to Nate's record both in the UFC and outside of it, as evidence that the numbers don't match the reputation. He's arguing that Diaz's legendary status comes from his personality and his ability to create moments, not from consistently beating top-level competition. Now here's what's wild about this take. Askren admitted he knows this opinion will cause an absolute social media massacre. He knows the Diaz fanbase will come for him with everything they've got. But he said it anyway. Why? Because sometimes the most uncomfortable truths are the ones that need to be heard. And whether you agree with him or think he's completely wrong, you can't deny that this perspective adds a fascinating layer to any potential White House fight.
Listen, Nate Diaz, he is the most puzzling. He's not. I don't even think he's that good. I'll go get his record if you want me to. But he has convinced people he is good at fighting somehow, some way.
He's pretty good.
I'm gonna go get his damn record, Daniel. It's not.
But he won the Ultimate Fighter. He won the Ultimate Fighter. I'm saying he was good for the time that he was fighting.
No, he wasn't. He was average.
He was. Yeah. Okay. I'm just.
Okay.
Trying
I'm gonna
not
go get the record. I'm gonna go get the record. They're gonna yell at me. I know this. Okay. Let's see. Well, his record is 21-13.
Oh my God. Really?
Yes, that's not that great.
Okay, I take it back. I'm taking it back.
And he was going into the UFC, he was, I think it was 5-1. So within the UFC, he was 16-12.
That's not good.
That's not very good.
That's not good. There's really no way to twist that into good.
Yeah. So but you know, his personality, that's another one's like, how did his personality catch on? He says funny things sometimes. He's a little bit different. I don't know. Yeah. And listen, if you post this clip, please.
So I'll post a clip because the Diaz army will attack. But let's talk about who else might be sharing that historic White House card with Nate. Chael Sonnen just broke down the potential lineup, and the star power he's predicting is absolutely insane. First up, Michael Chandler is practically guaranteed to be featured, with multiple exciting options on the table. We could see him face Beneil Darius, run back that war with Dan Hooker, or if the timeline works out, even jump into a BMF title fight. But that's just the beginning. Sonnen also highlighted Ilia Topuria as a major international draw whose presence would boost global viewership through the roof. And here's the kicker, Alex Pereira, who's currently unbooked, is very likely getting added to this card as well. Think about the combination we're looking at here. You've got Chandler's explosive fighting style and incredible story. You've got Topuria's rising star power and that featherweight championship mystique. You've got Pereira's knockout artistry and that aura of danger he brings to every fight. This isn't just a card, it's a collection of some of the most exciting, most dangerous fighters on the planet all competing on the same night.
I'm telling you, the most confident guy that I believe is going to fight is Michael Chandler. Who's he going to fight? I think that Benoit Saint-Denis is possible. I think that a rematch with Dan Hooker is possible. I think there's a chance of a quick turnaround with the BMF, but I don't know how bullish I am just because that turnaround would be so quick. But I am very confident that Chandler's going to be on there. I will tell you, Alex Pereira, if you want to know the sport's biggest stars, you've got Alex Pereira and Sean O'Malley that have been battling for the top spot for 2 years now. But from what we're told, Ilia Topuria is a massive star, particularly internationally. So now that you've got the return of Ilia Topuria, it would seem as though you would use your big star over there. It would also seem with Alex Pereira, since he's not booked, that he would.
And to really cap off his predictions for this monumental White House card, Chael Sonnen made a very specific call that's got everyone talking. He passionately argued for both Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira to be featured prominently on the exact same lineup, and his reasoning is brilliant. Pairing these two electrifying stars together doesn't just generate excitement, it creates the defining headline for the entire event. Fans get a crystal clear preview of the incredible high-stakes action they can expect. We're talking about two fighters who have never been in a boring fight, two guys who finish opponents in spectacular fashion, two athletes who represent the absolute pinnacle of their respective divisions. Sonnen even hinted that with names of this caliber headlining the card, this event could easily become one of the most talked about and memorable in recent UFC history. And honestly, when you look at the potential matchups, the historic venue, and the level of talent being discussed, it's hard to argue with that assessment.
I do think you're going to get Ilia and you're going to get Pereira on the same card. I think that's going to be exciting. I think that's going to be the news that comes out of this meeting.
But now for a completely different angle that nobody saw coming. Demetrius Johnson, one of the greatest fighters who ever lived, just proposed something that would break the internet. He believes Islam Makhachev has the perfect opportunity to make history by taking on Ilia Topuria at the White House card, winning decisively, and then retiring at the absolute peak of his career, just like his mentor Khabib Nurmagomedov did. Think about the poetry in that scenario. Islam isn't just any fighter. He's a dominant, almost unstoppable force who's been systematically destroying every challenger put in front of him. Johnson sees him as supremely capable of beating Topuria convincingly, which would set up the most stylish possible exit from the sport. This wouldn't just be a fight. It would be a career-defining finale that cements his legacy in the most unforgettable way possible. For fans, this represents the kind of high-stakes, legacy-on-the-line showdown that creates legendary moments we talk about for decades.
I didn't think Islam was going to be able to... I didn't think Islam is small for 170. I've seen him in person. I've trained with him. He's a big fucking dude. And who will Islam fight next at 170? You know what? I think Islam is destined for... He should fight Ilia Topuria at the White House. If he beats Ilia Topuria, he retires. Islam has plenty of money, right? Go out on your shield like Khabib did. A lot of people in MMA don't want to see that, but in mixed martial arts, us athletes, we stay too long at the party. There's no reason for an athlete to continue to come to the head and all that stuff. If I was him, fight Ilia Topuria at the White House, you beat Ilia Topuria, walk away. I'm sure he made another one. That shit probably goes as far as fucking Russia, so there's no...
Speaking of big names vying for coveted spots on that incredible White House card, Sean O'Malley just revealed exactly what fight he believes would make the biggest impact for his career. While he acknowledges that Merab Dvalishvili absolutely deserves a title shot based on merit and his impressive resume, O'Malley is pushing hard for a White House showdown with Petr Yan instead. His reasoning: this represents an incredibly high-stakes, all-American clash that not only promises to electrify fans with its competitive fire, but also gives him the unparalleled opportunity to represent the country on the sport's biggest, most prestigious stage. For O'Malley, this isn't just about winning a fight or defending a belt. This is about seizing a career-defining moment that could solidify his place in history. And when you think about it, he's got a point. A victory over Yan at the White House wouldn't just be another title defense. It would be a statement that he belongs among the elite of the elite. So there you have it. Nate Diaz is training like a man possessed. The biggest names in MMA are positioning themselves for White House card spots, and we're potentially looking at the most star-studded combat sports event in American history. This isn't just about individual fights anymore. This is about witnessing something that transcends the sport itself. Whether it's Diaz versus McGregor 3, Islam's potential retirement fight, or O'Malley defending on the biggest possible stage, we're talking about moments that will define careers and create legends. Here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Which matchup are you most excited to see, and do you think this White House card actually happens, or is it all just hype? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really brewing behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell because this story is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one. But here's what nobody's talking about that could completely change everything we just discussed. Dana White's been dropping hints in interviews that the White House card might not be the only massive event they're planning for this year. Sources inside the UFC are whispering about a potential international component that would make this whole situation even more insane. Think about it. What if the White House event is actually one of a two-part global spectacle? What if they're planning to follow up the American card with something equally historic in another country? This would explain why so many top fighters are suddenly available, and why the negotiations have been so secretive. We're not just looking at one night of fights. We could be witnessing the launch of an entirely new era of combat sports entertainment that spans continents and creates a month-long festival of the world's best fighters. And here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. Ariel Helwani just revealed that multiple A-list celebrities have been quietly reaching out to the UFC about attending this White House event, and some of them want to do more than just sit in the audience. We're talking about Hollywood stars who have been training in combat sports wanting to participate in exhibition matches or special demonstrations. Think about the crossover appeal this creates. You've got mainstream celebrities mixing with the world's elite fighters on the most prestigious stage imaginable. This isn't just expanding the audience for MMA. This is creating a completely new category of entertainment that blends sports, politics, and pop culture into something we've never seen before. The pay-per-view numbers for an event like this wouldn't just break records. They'd shatter every existing metric for what's possible in combat sports viewership. Now here's something that's going to shock you about the financial implications of this White House card. Industry insiders are estimating that the total economic impact could exceed $200 million when you factor in international broadcasting rights, sponsorship deals, and merchandise sales. But here's the crazy part. Most of that money isn't even coming from traditional MMA revenue streams. We're talking about luxury brands that have never sponsored fight events suddenly wanting to be associated with this level of prestige. We're talking about international tourism boards paying premium rates to advertise during the broadcast. We're talking about streaming platforms bidding against each other for exclusive behind-the-scenes content rights. This event isn't just big for fighters and fans. It's creating entirely new business models that could reshape how combat sports events get funded and marketed for the next decade. But wait, because there's another angle to this story that changes everything about how we should view these potential matchups. John McCarthy just dropped some inside knowledge about how fighters are actually preparing differently when they know they're competing at a venue like the White House. According to Big John, the psychological pressure of performing on that stage, in front of that kind of audience, with that level of historical significance, fundamentally changes how athletes approach their training camps. We're not just talking about physical preparation anymore. We're talking about fighters working with sports psychologists, studying presidential history, and even practicing their post-fight interviews with media consultants. The level of professionalism and attention to detail that's required for an event like this is unlike anything the sport has ever seen. This means that whoever steps into that octagon isn't just bringing their regular game. They're bringing an elevated, refined version of themselves that we might never see again. And here's something absolutely wild that Daniel Cormier revealed about the behind-the-scenes negotiations for this White House card. Apparently, the Secret Service has been involved in every aspect of the planning, from fighter background checks to equipment specifications to emergency medical protocols. DC mentioned that the security requirements alone have created challenges that no other combat sports event has ever faced. Think about what this means. Every fighter on this card has to pass the kind of screening usually reserved for world leaders. Every piece of equipment has to be inspected and approved by federal agents. Every aspect of the production has to meet presidential-level security standards. This isn't just adding legitimacy to the sport. It's elevating MMA to a level of governmental recognition that seemed impossible just a few years ago. When the United States Secret Service is personally vetting your event, you know you've transcended entertainment and entered the realm of cultural significance. Here's another bombshell that's going to change how you think about this entire situation. Brendan Schaub just revealed that several retired fighters who said they'd never compete again are quietly exploring comebacks specifically for this White House opportunity. We're talking about legends who walked away from the sport on their own terms, suddenly considering one final fight because the historical significance is too tempting to ignore. Schaub wouldn't name names, but he hinted that some of these potential returns would be bigger surprises than anything we've seen in recent memory. Imagine the shock value if someone like Georges St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, or even Chuck Liddell announced they were coming back for one night only at the White House. The nostalgia factor combined with the prestige of the venue would create a perfect storm of emotional investment from fans who grew up watching these legends compete. This isn't just about current stars anymore. We might be looking at a true celebration of the sport's entire history. But here's what really has me convinced this White House event is going to happen. And it's something most people are completely overlooking. The timing of all these announcements, rumors, and training camp stories isn't coincidental. If you map out when each piece of information started surfacing, there's a clear pattern that suggests coordinated promotion building toward a major announcement. Marketing campaigns for events this size don't happen overnight. They require months of strategic planning and gradual information release to build maximum anticipation. The fact that we're seeing simultaneous stories about Nate's training, fighter availability, celebrity interest, and venue logistics tells you that someone with serious resources and connections is orchestrating this entire narrative. This level of synchronized buzz doesn't happen by accident. It happens when promoters, networks, and government officials are all working together toward the same goal.